All right, everyone. Hopefully, everyone's having an awesome day. So, in this video here, I wanted to talk about VR. In my experience, I've had with VR so far, and that has to do with the MetaQuest 2. I've had opportunities to try other VR headsets, just never got around to doing it. But I wanted to get a particular VR headset that met two goals. One, that I can use as standalone. I don't want it to be completely tied to another piece of device. That's why I never got into the PlayStation VR. And originally when I got the PS5, I originally got it with the intention of getting the PlayStation VR 2. Well, I decided not to do that. I decided to go with this for two reasons. One, at least at the time, this was the absolute cheapest way of getting into VR. Now, when I say getting into VR, I'm not talking about like using like a special headset to attach your phone to it. I've tried those things before. They sucked. They were absolute garbage. And truthfully, even when devices, even from Google themselves, came out of like the Google Cardboard, and there was like a special headset for one of the Pixel phones at one point with a special controller. I tried them, they sucked, and I guess the market basically said that, hey, these things are terrible, stop wasting time with them, and devices like that pretty much faded away, which is understandable. So I decided to get the MetaQuest 2 because at the time, this was the cheapest way of getting into like a proper VR experience, but it also met the needs of something I was looking for that was a standalone unit. I, if I wanted to do PC, then that's an extra. So, based on that, that's why I settle on this. Now, the cool thing about this, though, is that yes, I can use this on my PC for things like Steam VR. So, yes, I've played Half-Life Alyx. Yes, that is one of the absolute best VR games out there, hands down. If you want like a definitive VR experience, Half-Life Alyx is it. Now, I do understand that, with PlayStation VR 2 out now with like the Horizon game, I'm not entirely sure how good that is. I need to read up on that. But from my experience, Half-Life Alyx is the absolute must-have VR game. Now, how about using this thing on the PC? Well, here's my desktop computer, and yes, I do have the cable for the Quest 2. This is the official version. This is not a third-party one. This is the one from Meta. And yes, these cables are stupid expensive, but I wanted to make sure that, it will work fine and the compatibility is there. And the cable itself, even though it is overpriced, the cable itself does feel really good. It's not a very stiff cable. It's actually very flexible, which is really important for basically having it attached to it. However, I don't really have to use that now because of AirLink. Now that AirLink is a lot more stable, and now that I have a way of having a hardwire connection on my computer, I can actually use AirLink properly. And the nice thing about it is that, again, it gives me a way to use the thing standalone without having a cable attached to something. So that's the nice thing about it now, is that once I wirelessly connect it to my computer, I can load up Steam VR and play VR games from Steam wirelessly to the MetaQuest 2, which is really, really cool. Even things like the Valve Index can't do that. And this is a much cheaper device. Now, there are some caveats to that, of course. So, for one, you got to make sure you're on a very good connection or a very good wireless infrastructure for your Wi-Fi connection. And two, you want to make sure either your desktop or your laptop that you're going to play VR titles from is running through Ethernet. Now, in my particular case, I did a video on these devices that uses my coaxial cables as my Ethernet in the walls. And so far that thing's been rock solid. Even doing the AirLink is rock solid. So go find that video on my channel, watch it. If you're in a similar situation where you need a hardwire connection, but you don't have Ethernet, for like $100, that is well worth the money. Hands down. So nonetheless, in my experience, for the most part, for VR, this is actually pretty solid, even today in 2023. Yes, I did get this before the price hike. So for $399 as the cheap model, that's kind of pushing it. However, when you compare that price with competitors out there, it's still cheaper than most of the other ones. However, I guess one advantage I would justify for this for is the AirLink capabilities. So that if you don't want to be tied down to a wire connected to your computer, this is still probably going to be your best bet. So yeah, that's my experience with VR in general. And these controllers, if you've never seen how a MetaQuest 2 VR controller looks, that's how it looks. You got your trigger there, you got another button there, 2 face buttons, a little touchpad, your Oculus button and a control stick. And obviously there's 2 of them. So yeah. Another issue is that because of the way the Quest 2 is designed, though, it is a little bit front heavy, and I think whenever a Quest 3 comes out, it's gonna have to solve that issue. I think they're gonna have to design something where it's actually more in line of how like the PlayStation VR type of headset is designed, where most of the weight tries to stay on your head and not necessarily on your face. And keep in mind, this is the one where I got the Elite strap for. So this is not like an elastic band or anything. So this is more comfortable to use. However, I think if it's more like a proper style of basically attaching to your head and then having the front portion of the VR headset in front of your eyes to make it lighter, I think that is what's going to solve that issue. But all in all, I'm actually quite happy with this. And even if they do come out with a Quest 2 or a Quest 3, not entirely sure if it's even worth even upgrading then. Because who knows, it might even be more expensive too. But if you're looking for like a cheap way to get into VR, and especially if you're going to be doing the PC side of things, this is actually a really solid option. So yeah, those are my thoughts on my experience with VR so far. And the more I'm using it, and the more I learn about like on the PC side of things, I think I might try to start doing some streams of me playing VR. Now, how I'm going to get all that set up, have to wait and see. But it is a possibility. Anyway, I'll end it here. Like always, have a good one. And if you have any experience with VR in general, leave those comments down below. I'll be reading them.